You know that feeling, right? You're in a conversation with someone you know really well, your partner, a close friend, maybe a teammate at work, and all of a sudden things just feel heavy. The easy back and forth you used to have is gone. Now everything feels like an effort and you just can't figure out why. Well, it turns out the answer is usually way simpler and, well, more mechanical than we think.
So, what's really going on here? Why does that easy flow in our most important relationships sometimes just disappear? Our minds immediately jump to the worst conclusions, don't they? We think, oh no, is there some hidden conflict? Is something wrong between us? But what if the problem isn't about feelings at all? What if it's actually about physics?
And this right here, this is a total game changer. The way we feel in those moments, it often has absolutely nothing to do with hurt feelings or some big emotional drama. The problem is structural. The actual foundation of the way you're interacting has shifted, and usually it's happened so quietly that nobody's even noticed.
Okay, so this brings us to the source of the problem, this unseen weight. And it's important to know this isn't something that shows up after one big explosive argument. No, it accumulates silently, little by little, through a process of quiet, unnoticed drift. I mean, think about it. Our relationships aren't really built on just a few big moments. They're built on thousands of repeating patterns, or what we can call interaction loops. One person shares something, the other person responds, and the next thing you say adjusts based on that response. When these little loops land cleanly, over and over again, things just feel easy. But when they start to miss, that's when the strain builds up. To really get a handle on this, let's use a really powerful metaphor. I want you to imagine something called an interaction surface. See, this interaction loop we were just talking about, it's like the engine that creates this surface. Every single cycle, every little exchange is either keeping the ground smooth and even, or it's creating a tiny little bump. And it's this constant, repeating process that totally defines the feel of the entire relationship. And this comparison just lays it out perfectly. When you're on an even surface, everything flows. It's light. Small signals like a quick text totally work. You don't have to explain every little thing. But on an uneven surface, it's the complete opposite. Every interaction feels heavy. You find yourself constantly saying, wait, what did you mean by that? And even the simplest signals start to invite all this guessing. So, the big question is, how does a perfectly smooth, even surface get so bumpy and uneven? Well, it happens through a process we call the quiet drift. And this is absolutely crucial. Drift is not one big event. It's a whole series of tiny, seemingly harmless little mismatches. A rushed response over here, a weird pause over there. On their own, each one seems totally reasonable, but when you add them all up, they slowly warp the entire rhythm of your communication, creating all those bumps on the surface. And this drift tends to happen in stages. First, you hit early drift. You just kind of notice things are taking a little more effort than they used to. Then it can progress to active drift. This is when clarifying becomes a regular part of your conversations.